Well, we appreciate everyone joining us today. Derby City Agile Meetup. We have two wonderful speakers. Anna will be introducing them shortly. We did want to make mention before we get started. There is a Derby City Agile Conference coming up on October 20th here in Louisville, Kentucky. It's a one-day conference. You will be have an amazing time. You're going to get
guaranteed
awesome food.
Chet will be there.
A swag bag. We're going to have Chet Henderson there, and it's going to be a day of interacting, networking, something that Anna and I felt was really needed in the community. We haven't been able to meet in person really for the last 2 years. We want to get out. We want to see folks. Hopefully October is a good time then. So October 20th, it's a one-day Derby City Agile Conference. If you're local to Louisville, awesome. If you're in Indy, Nashville, wherever, drive up, hang out. You can stay at Anna's place. She's offering rooms. So I'll share the link in chat. And also, if you have any questions during the presentation, please put those in chat as well. And we'll sort of do a curated Q&A in the end. Otherwise, Anna, take it away.
Ooh, Jay, I will. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Kepshire, and I own KEP Training. And I want to welcome Terry Spine and Shenà Newman. Terry is a lifelong technology lover. He is currently a release train engineer and lead scrum master at Humana, and he's the owner. Him and his wife own the most amazing distillery in New Albany. I've had a cocktail, and it's the best cocktail I've ever had. He is amazing. And a former student, I always have to brag on that. And then we have Shenà Newman, who is a personal girlfriend of mine that I love so very much. And she has really held every position you can imagine in agility. She's been in it for the long haul, over 10 years. She's been a scrum master, a product owner, an agile coach, a BA, and now she is a major girl boss and an associate director of the digital experience and user feedback at Humana. So woo woo! And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce, which I just did, you both and turn it over. Yay! And the crowd goes wild. Woo!
I cannot. I love it. Hey,
You're
everybody.
welcome.
Good afternoon. Thanks for spending your lunch time with Terry and I. We're really excited to come in and have a discussion with you guys. And that's exactly what it's going to be. We do have a few slides that's prepared, but we're really looking to make this more conversational. So I will say I've worked closely with Terry for quite some time. He will call just people out. So he is known for that. He's a known troublemaker. So that's what he does. But he's one of the best partners that I've ever worked with. So I'm excited that Terry, you're here today for this talk on being agile over doing agile.
Thank you, Shenà, for the kind lies. I certainly appreciate it.
You paid me well with those drinks at the distillery. All right. Well, without further ado, today we're here to talk about being agile over doing agile and agility beyond the practices. And so when we think about what exactly is agility, right? Like if we take away all of the things that we hear, we're going to go agile, we've got the agile manifesto, and all of those things are really critical and important. But when we really think about agility at its core definition, and here's some things that I've learned about agility over the years, because I like to take it out of like IT for a minute, because that's a lot of what we think about when we think about becoming agile. And so here's a quick quote. I'm going to read it. It's the difference between good and great. Agility is the ability to move quickly and easily. When athletes change directions at a top speed with skill and control, they use their agility to react to a stimulus or movement. This immediate control reaction takes a complicated balance of coordination, speed, stamina, and strength. While many athletes use their agility gracefully, dismissing it as a natural skill or tendency is easy. However, with correct exercises and drills can cultivate more agility in anyone. And you can go and read the article around this, which is a really good article because it is easily relatable over in business, right? So business agility is no different than what he's talking about here for athletes, right? When we think about agile, like it's hard and it goes against the majority of us, our natural human ways, right? It is something that we seriously have to condition ourselves. We have to train, right? We have to spend the time to become agile. It's not a doing, it's truly a way of living. And by actively conditioning our workplace environments, values, cultures, empowering individuals and the teams with the proper training and in partnership with change management, any business can cultivate more agility.
Exactly, Shenà. And I think it's also important that to continue along this athletic parallel that we have going on here, when we are truly agile and that athlete commits to that new direction, when they quickly pivot, they don't keep thinking about like, well, maybe I should also do this as well, right? They fully commit to that new direction that they are heading, and they deal with those new challenges. And they do it without abandon, right? It is not a serving to plan sort of thing. It's, we have found a better path to go and we're going to go down that path. So just wanted to add that in there.
That's perfect. Agreed. All right. So being agile over doing agile, right? So being agile is about who we are. It is about the culture of your organizations, right? Thinking of the team. Being agile is about how the team perceives itself. It relates to other teams, what it values, how it behaves. Then there's the doing agile, right? Doing agile puts a hyper focus on procedures, jargon, tools, and daily routines. And you know what? That's okay, right? It's okay to get yourself started in doing some of those hyper-focused things, like getting your tools in place, understanding some of those daily ceremonies and sprint ceremonies that you have to have as part of being a Scrum team. But that doesn't make you agile. That's just doing some of the things that is in support of being agile. It takes a focus, right, in changing the mindset. And again, the workplace culture. It's truly a change in the way that you work. Terry? Anything to add there?
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. And I always have something to add, you know that.
I know.
And being agile doesn't just really concentrate on a team, right? It is the entire organization, as you said, top, bottom up, top down, everyone has to buy into this and think about it to the core of how we do business processes. Again, like you said, it doesn't always just apply to IT, right? It grew in IT, but the way that we find solutions to deliver good value in our businesses has to be from all angles of the business and embraced by everyone in the organization.
Thanks, Terry. So now we're going to come up to where we're going to ask you for some of your feedback, right? Or some of your thoughts and conversation here. And so we've put together here, can you spot over on the bullets onto the right-hand side, can you spot some things that's about doing agile versus being agile? Anyone care to call any of those out that you see? Anyone? Let's see, I'm gonna call on someone. I'm gonna call on a familiar name. I'm coming to you. Mr. Roth, it's you. I'm coming for you. Mark, anything on this list that you can spot out as doing agile versus being agile?
No, I was really laughing at the 1 hour project update, guys, does it really stand up?
Yeah. That's a thing, right? Like, I don't know if you've been a part of a transformation before and you've heard, hey, we're going to do agile, right? One of the things that you may have experienced is 1 hour project updates, and they're disguised as your daily stand-ups. Thanks, Mark, for calling that one out. Any others that anyone has experienced or can call out on this list, right, as doing agile versus being agile?
Yeah, the leader agenda topic where they're saying, oh yeah, we're now going to do agile.
Yeah. Have you ever asked, like, what does that mean?
Yeah, they don't understand the mindset.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's always funny that it's normally, well, over the next 3 months we're going to implement Agile, and after that we'll be fully Agile, right? We're good. We've done all we can do.
Right.
So, I've given everyone's had time to read through this list, and I'm sure that if you've been in the Agile space for very long, you have seen these behaviors. These are all doing Agile behaviors. This was not like pick the ones that are all, pick a, multiple choice, which one's the right answer. These are all things that we've seen that contribute to that doing Agile sort of focus as compared to making it part of the culture and being Agile. And in a little bit, we'll get into some other things that will have a more of an opportunity for you guys to give us some feedback about behaviors you have seen, and also maybe how to avoid those. So,
For sure. As part of this too, right? Some people, as we look to embark upon the journey of becoming agile and making it a being of our culture, our teams, our organization, ourselves, sometimes, we're going to go with the saying of sometimes you have to fake it till you make it, right? So by doing some of these things, right, really helps position yourself, your teams, your organization, right, in their journey of becoming agile. But it can't just stop here. You can't just say, oh yeah, I've got this checklist, I've done all of this, now I'm doing agile, right? Because it's truly about the being, the mindset, and the culture of it. So fake it till you make it sometimes, but just know that you can't stop at the faking it. You got to actually do the being. Terry?
So next, we'd like to talk about what are the kind of our top 10 blockers for becoming agile, right? Really embodying that attitude. And I will be the first to admit that I struggle with this daily. That it's not, it's one of those things that requires constant conditioning, like an athlete. They don't get strong and then quit working out. This is something that we all have to work at, and we will find ourselves backsliding into old behavior. Just a little bit about me. I did not actually come from a traditional project management background. I kind of when I got into doing product management, it was directly into an agile environment. But we have old habits that are easy habits that force us back to thinking about things in a waterfall perspective. And so what we're going to go into next previews a little bit on that. So, oh, you retooled this slide on me, Shenà. This is not what I was expecting. Good job. See, I'm going to react to a changing condition and adjust accordingly.
He gave me some feedback and I took it immediately.
Is that what happened?
That's what happened.
Sure. Okay. So here's our top 10-ish reasons we are blocked at becoming agile. Shenà, you want to give us, where do we start on the board here? Your little what is this? The Hollywood squares of
it is
not
the
being
Hollywood
agile.
squares of not being agile. And we're going to see how observant people are on this, and we'll look for the comments in there because we've called this the top 10-ish things here. So there should be a few things that hopefully jump out to you right away. That's pretty obvious, right? So one of the first ones that we're going to talk about is being agile is hard, and it goes against our natural human tendency to create a plan for everything. Like who's using like different Trello boards to plan out their vacations or using a checklist or a planner, right? Like we plan out everything, right?
Right. And
go ahead.
And that's, what I was going to springboard off of this. If you're probably like my age, and you can guess however old you think that is, when I got to like 8th grade, here in the US public school system, we were asked to plan out our entire high school and college career at 13 years old, right? You made a linear plan and you were going to stick to that. And then if it was a really ambitious group, they said, okay, well, go ahead and include your major that you're going to do in college, and then your profession that you're going to pursue after that. And that is just the wackiest thing I have ever heard. But as humans, we have a natural, we want to do that. We want to plan out to say where we're going to be in a year, 2 years, or even a week, right? We have that natural tendency to acknowledge that our plans will go smoothly. And so we want to do this. We've had it drilled into ourselves from a very young age that you do the plan and you accomplish the thing. Agile goes against that very, very nature, is that we have to accept what we don't know. And even though you might say, I'm going to graduate high school with a 4.0, I'm going to go on to college, I'm going to become a veterinarian, If you don't ever perform any experiments that you may or may not actually want to be a veterinarian, like you read a book and you conceptually like veterinarian, but you don't realize that you're deathly allergic to cats. That could be a giant disruption to your become a veterinarian plan. Now, maybe just your adjustment to your plan is you take a Zyrtec every day and you can deal with that. But there's going to be some adjustment points along the way. And so when we see behaviors going against Agile, just know that it's not necessarily a character defect with that person. It just goes against our natural human tendency to make things simple and linear. But we've learned through all of our experience in the Agile world that the world is anything but simple and linear.
It requires for us to be adaptable for sure, right? And sometimes that can be frustrating. And so the next one that it leads us into is our gray square there, Terry.
Yes, so failure is, we often see this becoming a thing that, especially in business, failure is not an option. And that can apply to the personal level and the business level, that we will not accept failure or not hitting a target.
Yeah. And I'll expand on that a little bit more, and I'll make it personal to myself. Like, failure is not an option. And when you're coming up, like Terry used examples of, like when you're in high school and in college, you're talked about like, don't fail, right? And so when we think about becoming agile and being in that way, it is about accepting that, you know what, failure is going to happen, but if it can happen fast, we can recover faster. I can think of a time when I was working on a project, actually not a product, but an actual project when I was a BA. I spent countless hours, months creating out this business requirement document. Any of my fellow BAs and project managers out there, you know the effort that it takes to create one of those. You've got it all created out. It's going to take my team 13 months to deliver on it, and we're going to follow this, right? Well, there was some critical pieces that was missing in this BRD document, and my team was failing to deliver on certain milestones of it because I didn't allow for flexibility in the plan. I didn't allow for us time to inspect, like, what are we really doing here? Is it really delivering the intended value? I was more focused on, are we hitting every checklist item and every requirement that's on this document? And it was because I did not want to fail. I didn't want to admit that I missed something. And so that was a very valuable lesson for me, because I had a leader that says, it was okay to fail in this. Because if we fail now at month 3 instead of at month 13, how much time and dollars have we saved ourselves, right? From getting all the way through 13 months and realizing that we're not delivering on the right thing. And that was a critical pivot point for me in my career, to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to own my failures up front. We're going to fail fast, even faster than we ever have before, so that we can recover faster to make sure that we're delivering on the right value. So that was a personal and professional lesson for myself.
Yeah, I've had to quickly learn that no one can screw stuff up as quickly as I can, and actually be prideful of that, right? That I'm willing to admit that mistake and just, really be terrible at something. There's the quote, anything worth doing is worth doing well. And that's actually wrong. Anything worth doing is worth doing poorly, because everybody has to start off really sucking at something, right? And that might be a project, a business delivery. It might be yourself leading a stand-up. It's okay to be awful at it, because if it's worth doing, you have to start and practice and hone that skill.
Right.
Next point.
To that. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Shenà.
I was just going to say, it goes back to that athlete, right? Do you think that Michael Jordan was great when he shot his first shot? No, right? But he had to continue to condition himself and be able to adapt to different circumstances, different type of players that was going to be in his face, right? To still be able to make the shot, to make him one of the greatest. So failure is a key part of becoming great. So we have our next one here, right? Where it talks about culture eats strategy for breakfast. This is one of Terry's favorite quotes, so I'm going to let him take this away, because he had to teach me about it.
Well, I wouldn't say that is one of my favorite quotes, and I know it's I like the quote because it means a lot in this context. But I I remember seeing this where I used to work. I spent 15 years in manufacturing. I saw this on the HR leaders board, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I was like, that's kind of dumb. I don't understand. You just strategize, you follow the plan, it's good. And then I came to Humana, a radically different organization, publicly held, almost 100,000 employees, 6,000 people in IT. And I saw the way that culture could just eat my best plan for breakfast. And I came in with this plan that I'm going to do this thing. And then I had to take the time to learn about the culture and the way that people really function inside the organization. And, you know, a lot of times there are good things about culture and there are bad things about culture. You can probably use either one to your advantage in implementing some of the being agile practices. But I remember I came in like really quickly thinking, oh, this is not what I signed up for. This is not going to be an easy thing. And normally the bigger the organization, the longer terms of, or I guess the longer lengths of service, you know, as that gets bigger, this gets the culture problem becomes a bigger problem towards, you know, creating our agile goals. And it's kind of the concept of inertia, right? If you know, if it's at rest, it's going to stay at rest, and the bigger the object, the harder it is to push. So, but once you get that, you know, big rock rolling, you can use that to your advantage. You know, for me, I really had to take the time and learn how to connect with people in the culture, to have a lot of one-on-ones. That was a Shenà thing. Shenà taught me, she's like, you need to have one-on-ones with your developers. And I'm like, no, I don't need to do that as a Scrum Master. And I learned so much about the story of where those people came from and the way that they started out working as a DBA in a data center, you know, that working at 2 a.m. and the way that they received incident tickets. Now they're, you know, this major level architect, but they, you know, their skills in working in that environment got them to the point they are today. And they're not just going to throw away all those skills and things that they've learned and all those little tips and tricks for navigating the organization that I had no idea about. But I had to take the time to learn about that. And so it's not necessarily that we have to change the culture to be able to implement our strategy, but we have to learn and acknowledge and give it a little hat tip and say, I get it. How do we fit our plan around that? And I recently tried to do some things with implementing, you know, a Kanban strategy over here and a Scrum strategy over here, two different levels in the org. And they felt I was being too prescriptive. And so I was like, well, what do you guys feel like we should do? And the second I asked, what do you want to do? I had like immediate buy-in. And that we need to say that each individual area is special. Now, I know what's going to happen is that they're going to implement it exactly the way I said. But the fact that I gave them a choice in the matter made the whole conversation go a lot easier. So however that organizational culture goes is going to dictate how successful we are as people and as organizations at becoming or being agile. So
Absolutely. There, for sure.
Shenà, anything to tell me why I'm wrong? Anna has a hand raised.
I have a question. And, you know, when we do consulting, right, when my trainer does consulting, I'm not there, so I don't sit in on that portion of it. But we had an individual highly disruptive to the team for months, ending up costing my trainer and things almost like $500,000, like that disruptive. How do you, and I know what happened in that scenario, but what do you do like when you have that one person that is really just being the roadblock, right? And it's, you have, and really going to other people and just
being the barrier, right?
Being the barrier. And I think every company has experienced a flavor of that. And but we've seen it in such a toxic level of one organization. And it can really blow up.
Here, you want me to take that?
Oh, I can run with it. I can do whatever you want with that one. I've seen it. But I'll do my piece, and then Shenà, you can say yours. You know, nothing happens without the power of relationships. And normally when you have that disruptive person, they've probably been around a while and they are probably very high functioning at their job. they're probably good. I've seen instances where they're not, but a lot of times that person has a lot of tribal knowledge that we don't have if we're new to the org. And it comes down to relationships,
Yep.
that you have to ask for the permission to engage with that person, build a friendship, and see where it can go. Now, it may end up that, well, this person is not, they can't be helped, right? But normally people throw up defensives, right? They're going to puffer fish. They're going to blow up. They're going to stick their spines out, and they're going to protect their territory that they have worked to build because they perceive you as a threat to what they've built. So now you work to form that relationship and that partnership to learn about their agenda and to help make them successful in whatever that might be.
That is it. It's all about the relationship and meeting them where, because like it's scary, and you've got a new person coming in, especially an outsider to the company, and telling you, hey, here's a new way of doing things, or I'm going to train you on this new way. And they've been very successful at their job current today. Terry and I had an experience with several teams and team members in this way. And I can think of one just a couple of years ago where we had someone who was really, truly adamant about not coming on board with this new way of working, not even interested in hearing it out. And that is where Terry talks about where it is really, truly the one-on-one. And I always tell, I've always told trainers and consultants in which that I've worked with, or either trained or hired on, and said, you know, it's about making it personable, not personal, right? Like we want to be personable with them. We want to understand what's so scary about this for you, right? And ask their permission to come into their world, right? Like we're outsiders coming into their world. And yes, we've been invited and hired to do a job to bring about a change with the way that this organization is working. We're aware of that, right? And we know that we have leadership support. But the people that are really critical to whether it's successful or not are those that are going to be the ones that's going to give you your biggest blockers and barriers. And it's really having that one-on-one with them to say, talk to me about it. And what we learned is that this person has worked with like 4 or 5 different consultants or scrum masters or coaches, right? And had really bad experiences with them because they were really just going from a textbook, right? They didn't really have hands-on experience, and they didn't ask them their opinion. They didn't ask them their feedback and what they were concerned and scared for. So those relationships are key in meeting people where they are.
Absolutely.
Yep. Which takes us really nicely into the next one, Terry, what we have there.
And I love
Yes.
that quote that you did. Make it personable, not
Personal.
not personal.
Yep.
And you know, I guess the exchange of emotional currency and friendship currency can go a long way, that you're willing to, you know, listen to a person, seek to understand, not to be understood in those scenarios. So this fits in with that a little bit. As experts, saying, I don't know, can crush our fragile egos.
Great. So this one right here is personable or personal, I will say, to me. I had to learn that it was okay as a consultant at times to say that I don't know. But to say internally to myself that I don't know, that I, Shenà, like this great person that I think that I am, all knowing, that I don't know something, it was it crushed me, because in a moment I legitimately just did not know. And what I found was that if I say that I don't know in this moment, what's the worst that can happen, right? And I went super extreme, like, oh, maybe I'm going to lose this job, right? Or it could be that I'm going to win the respect of those that I'm working with by saying, you know what, I don't know every outcome of every situation. What I can tell you is that I'm here to work with you through each one of those situations. And some of this we're going to learn together. But a lot of times when we've worked with some of your really large consulting firms that get hired in, have you ever heard any of those consultants, when they're asked a question, say, I don't know? No, because they're so immediate to have an answer for you, even if that answer is not necessarily applicable to what you just asked them, or they can't go a level deeper than the surface answer that they gave to you, where they could have really won, or where, if you're a consultant, where you could really win the respect of the people that you're working with during their journey of becoming agile is to say, you know, I don't know that right now. One, I need to spend more time with you to kind of learn some of that historical knowledge, to learn some of the ways in which that you're working. Then I can come in and help you with managing this change and give advice. It's okay to say, I don't know, and not let it crush our egos.
Yeah, and that's approaching it from the agile implementation side. Think how scary it is for a business leader to approach something from a design set thinking. We're approached with a business problem, we need a business solution. They should know the solution immediately, right? But in reality, we need to embrace multiple design sets to think we don't know what the right answer is. Let's try a couple and see which ones make it through the funnel, and then use the best solution that's going to yield good business value to our customer. So that fear of saying, I don't know, exists all the way up and down. We all have that fear of not being experts, especially when being an expert has gotten you to the point you are, right?
Yeah.
A lot of, when we say leaders, when we look at leaders, they got to their place by knowing stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So it's scary to say, I don't know what the right answer is.
Yeah. I recently took on a new role in high performance engineering, and I'm not an engineer, right? And so some of those parts of the work in which that they do, I just don't know yet. I have an amazing team that has onboarded me in a great way. And they're like, well, don't worry, you don't know now, but you will know soon. And they continuously pour into me, right? Of the things that I do not know. And I think that just by approaching them at times to say, hey, I don't know this, I'm still learning, can you show me this? They have welcomed that, because guess what? That's a part of being a servant leader too, right? Being a servant leader is showing up saying sometimes, hey, can you help me, right? In something that I don't know. Like, I'm not going to be the knower of all things. So check your egos at the door as you're going through your agile transformations, but also in other areas. I think Austin called out a good point. When you're in interviews, right? Or you're being reached out to for consulting gigs to help people in becoming agile, helping condition and manage their change. It's okay to say, I don't know. It should be welcomed. Our next one here, Terry, we've got, so that we can move along here a little bit, is concentrating on the release date or delivery rather than on value delivery. Terry, how could that possibly block us?
Oh my goodness. You mean we actually want to do things that are impactful and create business change? Oh, so yeah, this is because we're all, I guess a lot of organizations, and this could be for any size organization, we rewards, right? We often rewarded for hitting a release day or for stay or things. It doesn't matter that the release was terrible and it didn't actually do anything. It's just you had to get to that release date. Oh, we released version 1.0. And we don't allow that feedback loop to occur. So a lot of times we need to change our metrics that we use in the organization from being date, phase gate, or or budgetary driven to being more a little bit more holistic about what impact do we make. And that's not just things like cost savings associated with this, or the amount of money that this thing brought in. It can also be user behavior, right? Did we take the number of clicks down by 20%? Did we I guess increasing throughput would be a financial, but also did we decrease user confusion when they look at a screen? Did it make sense to them? Were we able to reduce the number of behaviors that would be considered not good for the system? Not necessarily in the system aired out, but we didn't follow the workflow correctly. We want to change our metrics to being user-based instead of we just got the project to the end, and acknowledge and give a lot of credit to that feedback loop. There's probably some folks in here that have some concentration on UX or user-centered design. Using that UCD data to feed your metrics can be a big piece. And when we look at it from the point of view of the customer and the value we intend to do, that's our metric. We can flip the whole thing on its head and actually concentrate on what's important.
And that ultimately will increase dollars coming in, right? Because we're improving our product or creating products based off of that user base, right? The more they buy, right? Their feedback, if we're delivering on the feedback that we get, then the more that our product is marketable, it's purchased, it's used. So those things are really key and critical.
Next up, I'm a big fan of this one because I often get approved not taking anything seriously, but it is taking agile transformations too seriously. And I guess in this location, we were saying TOO. I realize the typo we have there is a serious thing we are doing too much of, and that is tools over are working with the team. Shenà, elaborate.
So taking agile transformations too seriously, right? I have an experience where an organization decided that we're going to do agile, right? And I kept saying, oh, so we're becoming agile, right? So that was a challenge. But in taking agile too seriously, when you walk into a room and you've got 3 different consultant firms in front of you, and they all have their own plan, but they're supposed to be working together to get you to the goalpost, right? To get you to that touchdown. And the leaders in the room are like, yeah, we're going to go with this plan and we're not going to be able to deviate, right? There's no flexibility. Like, we have to hit everything on this checklist that this firm says do. But we've got another firm here and they're going to fill in some gaps over here, and we're going to do everything on their checklist too. And then we've got the third one here. And even though they're the smaller of the group, they've got some good feedback, and we're going to do all the things that they say do too. And this is our way to do agile. And it's very intense and serious, and you can kind of cut the tension in the room because people are thinking, WTF, what, right? And the first thing that you hear sometimes come out of this, like if you're a consultant, one of the things that I will say that is the quickest way to turn off people in front of you, it's the first thing that you start to say, well, we're going to implement this tool, and you're going to have a Kanban board, or you're going to put all these sticky notes on the wall, and that's going to make you agile, right? Like, that's the key component of agile. Right? It's putting all of the tools in place, or just saying, well, we're going to have these ceremonies, but with anyone showing up to those ceremonies, understanding what the value output of those ceremonies are or why they're important, but just putting them on your calendar, right?
Yeah. And there's it's very tempting to say like, oh, we've got the backlog, we've got the sprint board, we've got the whatever, and you check that off and you say, we've reached stage 1 agility. However, this is a very qualitative sort of thing, right? The quality of the artifact might mean more than having the artifact itself. So if you have the backlog, but it's actually just a linear set of steps that you're going to go down to implement the project or the product, and it's not variable in nature, then it's just waterfall and sprints, and you have not become agile. Like, and how many groups are out there? I mean, I've been very guilty. I was a product owner for a couple years, and I always had to fight waterfalling and sprints. Like, we're going to do these things and the outcome is fixed. So we have to be able to look at that from a qualitative standpoint. How good are the stand-ups? Have we actually made an improvement in our metrics? And those metrics being, did we decrease the time a user has to wait for an enhancement ticket? Did we decrease any sort of negative impacts on the business side? Look at those as your result metrics, not just we implemented a Kanban board or a new intake procedure. Did it actually do good? Because it might feel good to have that Kanban board or that sprint board, but did it do good? And look from a results-oriented metric.
Yeah. Also with that, like, how do you overcome that, right? And some of that just kind of goes back up into is saying that failure is going to happen in your agile transformations. I know that no one wants to hear that, right? But failure is going to happen. And the reason that it's going to happen is because you're trying something new. And we are doing something that is a major change from where majority of people, it's their natural way to have this entire plan out way of doing this project or developing this product. So there's failure that's going to happen, right? And embracing that. Also owning and saying, you know what, there's going to be times that we're going to reach certain bridge points and we're not going to know, right? But we're going to learn our way through it. A way that you can start to approach some of your transformation, right, is going through and doing some of those assessments, right? And when I say assessments, I'm not talking about just sending out a mass survey and saying, answer this. Yes, those help. But think about how much feedback do you really get in those when you send them out just online or click this link and answer this question? You get some back, right? But when we're talking about taking on an agile transformation for an organization, sometimes you got to do those one-to-one interviews across the enterprise to find out where's that commonality thread at where we can start to focus some of this change at as we're becoming agile. What are some of those barriers and impediments that teams are having across the enterprise? Finding that commonality, because trust, that commonality exists, but it takes a lot of effort to find that. And so when you're coming and embarking upon your agile transformation, when you want to get serious about something, those are the areas to get serious at. But if you're all about saying, hey, I'm going to give you this platform and this tool, and now you can go do agile, and you harp on if someone doesn't do it exactly right or doesn't move the box in the correct spot, you're taking it too seriously in the wrong areas. Becoming agile is a serious thing, but are you putting the serious emphasis in the correct areas?
So you might notice here that we've only have 6 items on our 10-ish reasons. So what we wanted to put out there for you guys was to give us some of your reasons that that are blockers for us becoming agile. And I see a question in chat. I want to make sure we acknowledge that, and then we'll come back to that about strict deadlines and release dates. Yep. And I definitely have some insight into that. So
what I see all the time, right? Because I've been doing this with Chet for so long, is that people will put maybe 3 Scrum Masters through a class, get them trained, they get back super excited, and the leadership's like, no, we still want to do our, they haven't gone through the leadership training, which I think should be the very first step. So only training a couple people to then do a full transformation. We see that all the time. Mm-hmm. Where you're just really not giving the whole organization the right tools.
There is that assumption happens in lots of organizations that agility happens at the team level, but it's actually a business level all over the place. Everyone involved with that product must think in agility.
So I typed that one there that you called out. Anna, anyone else? What else? What are some of the areas or that you're seeing or that you've experienced?
I'm unsure if this is a blocker or if it's just like in my head it kind of is. It's like when you start doing a type of agile process and then you have somebody else come in and say, oh, you're not doing it correctly because you're not doing it their way. So I always feel like guilty because I'm like, is my way the right way? And it's like, it works for my team. But when somebody else comes in, they're like, oh, well, you're doing it completely wrong.
Terry, you've experienced that, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, you're not doing this right, or we must do Scrum this way. Or for me, agility is whatever gets you to the business results. That's agility. What delivers that value? And there's, I guess, a lot to be said about the journey. Right, that you're going to have different stages of maturity along the process, and trying to get someone to run 100 miles an hour right from a dead stop ain't going to work. So bring them along slowly with what can be done. And I know it can be discouraging because you feel like you're not making progress, but sometimes just making the simple list, like here's my 4 things I want to make a difference on this year, and accept that it's always a journey and we have to continually evaluate and take stock in the work we're doing and what's beneficial.
Capture that. What else that others are experiencing? Thanks, Sherry. Oh, that's good, King David. I like that. Allowing our years of personal experiences stand in our way of learning.
That's
Like,
good.
I'm gonna make that a quotable moment. Taking that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, John. Bad metrics. Trying to be agile with waterfall metrics. Oh, the journeys that Terry and I have been on. Trying to
Absolutely. Yeah.
course correct that. Let's see here. The business and specifically are not agile. They remove product management and sometimes engineering from new business insights and feedback. In short, the business and product must be aligned in understanding what it means to be agile. Agreed. Agreed. 100% on that. So one that got called out, bad metrics, trying to be agile with waterfall metrics. John, you've got an example of that you want to share? If not, it's okay. And if you're talking to us, John, you might be on mute.
So this is a good question that BJ just asked. How do we know / measure the state of being agile? And being agile it's a, right, like you said, it's a state. It's a continuous sort of road that we are on. However, the metric that I use for are we being agile is, what difference did the product make? The product itself is the definition of, is the measure. So if what we deliver is our agility state. And so if you're delivering a product that doesn't meet your user's demand, that is delivered late, that was not able to change direction frequently or meet those things, then you're not doing agile. The results speak for themselves. And if you're having problems with that customer satisfaction part, then you backtrack it and you find those root causes. Like, okay, well, why didn't this feature get used? And start doing those kind of traditional qualitative or quality metrics like 5 why, fishbone diagrams, those sorts of things. Dive into that sort of analysis.
Additionally, right, when you start thinking about the state of being agile, how you know that you're progressing towards that and that you're maturing in it, right? Because it's never a end date, right? Like to say, oh, we reached it and now we're done, right? It is continuously, right? So you're continuously improving the way that you work, the way that you approach the work, and that you have continuous feedback loops coming in, whether those feedback loops are in on your products in which that you are pushing out to your customers, whether that feedback loop is in how we are hiring, how we're teaming, how we're breaking down hierarchy within our organizations, right? Those are the things in the state of being agile, which are so critical, right? That's why people say it's so much easier to become agile or be agile in startup companies. Why? Because they're starting off just flat, right? Everybody's flat. We're starting off and we're all diving in to do the work that's required to deliver the value to our customers, right? So when you get to that point in your journey of becoming agile, where you see that the continuous feedback loops is not just happening on your tangible products in which that you're delivering out, but it's happening within the way that your team functions and works together, the way that your organizations hires and brings people in. When you start to see where, hey, everything is not so hierarchical, right? That it is the team that is empowered to make the decisions that need to be done to deliver on this product.
So I do want to move ahead, and I want to get into our takeaways from this talk, because we are running up against time, and I want to be respectful of everyone's lunch break that you so graciously gave to us today. So Shenà and I, we felt like when we were designing this talk that this whole thing is just terribly depressing and we should just all give up and not even try. But we wanted to say, like, what's the takeaway? Is the encouragement is that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And we've seen a giant transformation from where we saw traditional project management come online during basically the Industrial Revolution, took us all the way through the space race. And then, we've had this Agile thing that comes about in 2001. And if you look at the history of that, 200 years of traditional project management, only the last 20 or really 15 have we started to embrace this. We're still in that deployment stage where we're figuring it out in the business world. So it is a marathon, and we're right here at the beginning of the race. And it's going to take us a long time to get there. But as we've seen with all the metrics out there, hey, it's worth exploring. And now, also that, Agile isn't one size fits all, right? It doesn't belong in all the places. And trying to do it wrong is probably where we've seen some of those bad behaviors. But hey, it's a marathon. Just keep working at it, keep chipping away at it. You're doing good. That's my point.
Around the feedback loops are applicable during the journey to becoming Agile, which we kind of talked about a little bit already. But becoming Agile is iterative, right? And it may require trying a few different things until you and your organization finds this rhythm and what works for them, right? The feedback loop is critical as you are becoming Agile. You can't just say, I want feedback on just how my product is doing on the customer journey, right? You have to talk about the associate's journey too, because these are the individuals that make up the culture of the workplace of your organization. So the feedback loops of associates is so critical that sometimes when we are going out for consultant work or we're being hired in as Agile coaches or transformation leads, it talks so much about what are we going to do to get our product to market faster, right? That we don't really devote enough time, right, to talking about the associate experience in the transformation.
And harping on a little bit more what we talked about before, and Anna, was what your question, that these Agile transformations require all levels of leadership devotion. And Edward Deming says there, come yourself or send no one. I'd rather you not be involved at all than come in and just, kind of give it a half-ass sort of effort. And there's nothing wrong with suggesting to a director, hey, the product owner course, it's 2 days long. How about you take a look at it? I think it would be beneficial. And if you have a leader that has a continuous learning mindset or a growth mindset, they'll have no problem doing that, or at least reading up on it and becoming a little familiar and suggesting that, hey, can you take a look at this? I think it would be really good for us as an organization to embrace this way, rather than you shouldering that yourself.
Yep. Rolling up their sleeves to
Yep.
learn and participate and contribute to all parts of this, right? And then the last one, right? It starts with me. And it starts with you, it starts with me. So taking that accountability there, right? Acknowledging that change starts with you. So when you hear your organizations, whether they're saying, we're going to start our journey to becoming Agile, or even if they say, hey, we're going to do Agile, you got to know that the change starts with you and how you respond to the change, right? So everyone has to take accountability and acknowledge, again, that the change in anything in life is hard, especially in the workplace, right? But with that continuous effort, training, and failing, you can become Agile. You can have that agility that we talked about that athletes condition and train themselves from, because that's not natural for them. Not all of them, like especially the greats, right? There's continuous conditioning and training and failing that gets them to becoming and having the agility that they have.
Yeah,
Very well said.
My least favorite thing to do is to be honest about myself, right? Like that just hurts. You know, it's kind of like, oh, like, it's like, oh no, I didn't do that right. Or, you know, maybe these behaviors are more doing agile than being agile. But the encouraging part is that we are capable of change, right? We are moldable humans capable of experiencing a growth mindset and looking for that continuous learning that shape us into becoming better professionals in everything we do.
Hey, Terry, we've got 3 minutes here, and there looks like there's a question in chat. You want to take that one?
Let's see, looking up at, is it Risha's question there? Yeah, I didn't want to skim over this. It says most companies I have worked for are extremely strict with deadlines and release dates. They're extremely keen on providing all or nothing to the end clients. Then I would say that's not an agile mindset, because a lot of things are contract driven. That's not even a depth towards being agility done. And you might as well just say, do traditional project management and have a good time with it and reap the benefits. The way you can get out of that is starting the discussion of, well, can we give you little nuggets? And you just tell us what you think of it. We're not going to deliver anything to you, but we want you to come take a look at it. We want you to show it. We're going to do hey, can we get one of your users to like try this out and see if it does what we expect it to? And then you can get those little nuggets of feedback that still end up in an all or nothing delivery, but you can deliver a better product on that day because you're going to get that little correction.
Yep. This is where demos are important, right? So how do you know you're going to meet the deadline and deliver exactly what that customer wants if we're not getting that incremental feedback or providing demos to the customers, to leaders, to your business partners along the way?
And
right?
I think the next question of how does product ownership conversation take place with the clients where you're not able to provide all what they're looking for, I think it has to do with just being humble and asking, hey, you guys are really good at this, and I'm not sure if I'm doing this right. You just have to be humble as a product owner, because a product owner does not have all the answers. And if they do, don't trust them. You know, they're feeding you a line, and just say, hey, I need your help with this because I think we might be going down the wrong path. Or is this going to help you? Because our guy thought of this and he's really smart. Is this good? Always be humble about your ideas, be willing to embrace others, and also then sprinkle little nuggets of like, hey, is this neat? And because people like technology, they like when you're going to make their job easier. Yeah. You know, throw that bait out there and see if you can reel them in with some involvement. And if you have a customer that's not willing to engage, sometimes they're just not willing to engage.
It's not for everybody.
Well, that is going to put us at time for today. We do have 1 minute left, but hopefully by the time I get done rambling, we are at time. Terry, Shenà, cannot thank you enough for your time today. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I believe both of you are active on LinkedIn. You know, feel free to connect, learn, grow, sure, sharing stories on there as well. Anna, do you want to say some parting words to the group?
Well, you know, obviously I work with Chet Hendrickson. So if anyone is interested in training, we do have some CSM, CSPOs, and an ACSM. It is his final year of teaching. He is retiring, so this is it. But I want to thank you both so much because we have rarely had this many questions. And so we have really great speakers. So Shenà and Terry, thank you so much. And to everyone that joined, especially during the summertime, and we know, you know, it's vacation time right now. Thank you so much for your time, but also your participation. We had a lot of participation time this time, and I think that's really great. Like, you guys nailed it.
Thank you.
You did okay.
I will give my company a quick shout out here. Smart Data.
Please do.
We're a software development company. We deliver a variety of solutions in multiple different ways: staff augmentation, project work, mostly for enterprise clients. We are looking for some wonderfully talented Java developers right now. So if you do know anyone or are one, I'd love a recommendation. I will promise that I will help you out in the future, or even if you don't recommend someone, I will help you out anyways. So feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn as well.
Smart Data is awesome.
So thank you, Shenà. So thank you everyone again. Recording will be posted, and you all have a wonderful rest of your Thursday.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. That was